What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Dank Doggo ProRevenge. So, our revenge today is from u/Murderous Solutions. Ooh, from just the username, you can already feel how vindictive the revenge is gonna be. With the title of I was doomed to fail, so I took my classmate with me. TLDR on the backstory. Stuck in a project group, one of the members is a lazy a-hole who's already failed the year once. The other two were good eggs. The lazy a-hole makes getting a remotely respectable grade extraordinarily difficult. We are forced to stick together. Skip to the revenge begins for the actual revenge. My university career is a married one, tainted with a lot of personal issues between two courses. But this story is not about any personal issue. It is, however, about my first course came to a close. I spent my entire time at university in a highly ranked university in England. My first course being mechanical engineering. First year was a dozy with one of my modules, computing, program in Python essentially, finishing at 98% with the first module being at 70%. I only lost the 2% because of one unclear comment in a bit of code, and that was public knowledge among my year group. This put me quite comfortably at top of the class for the module, and would put me in everyone's crosshairs every time they had a programming issue. Then, roll around a second year. Right at the beginning of the year, we were informed that there will be a group project throughout the year. And we had a choice between number of projects, all but two of them geared more towards the other engineering disciplines. One of which was building a robot to compete, which was the popular option. Competing is cool, robots are cool. What could possibly go wrong? Oh boy! We were bunched into groups of 4 or 5 where there weren't enough people to make another group of 4. I was put in one of those 4s, and upon the first meeting, I already had my suspicions that things were going to go south. To introduce you to the people involved in this disaster, me, girl power, the two female members, they were good eggs. Rugby guy, the star of today's show, played rugby for university. The professor, the guy in charge of the project, supervision, and advising the team. The first meeting was to introduce ourselves, get to know any specialism that anyone might have, and ideas to tackle the task that we were given regarding robot design and implementation of our ideas. Girl power were quick to inform us that they had little practical experience in creating a robot, and their programming scores weren't so hot. But they'd be more than happy to chip in the design process and do a larger chunk of the paperwork. I was initially skeptical, but took everything they said on board. Then, Rugby chimed in, saying he's done this project before. All heads immediately snapped in his direction. He explained that he failed the years last year, thus was repeating this year. This is important information. So I asked him if he knew how to program, do electronics and designs, and he said a very short, yeah. He was mostly silent during the rest of the discussion, even when me and Girl Power tried to include him to get his ideas. We eventually agreed by majority vote on what we planned to do and delegated design and responsibilities using CAD software to design the components and make a prototype. The professor informed us that we must all have our design work done before we attempted to implement any of it, and that everyone must contribute in some way. In several weeks' time, we were to present our prototype and how we design it. I, of course, did my chunk of design components. Girls' Power's combined efforts also pushed forward their CAD design flawlessly. I was over the moon with just how slick their teamwork was. You couldn't name a more iconic duo. My mood came crashing down to earth, however, with a complete lack of anything from Rugby. Without his contribution, we couldn't get any further. We plead our case to the professor, but he didn't budge on this ruling. I did, however, take the time to do Rugby's guy's responsibilities myself and even what software design I could envision at the time in an attempt to make sure we wouldn't fall too far behind. Come to the presentation, we had absolutely no robot, not even a block of wood to present. The professor lambasted us ruthlessly. And it was clear he was disappointed and quite angry by the sheer lack of productivity our team presented. Girl Power came prepared for this, however, and had printed evidence of the work they did. I had printed evidence too, compiled of the work they did under their names, the official work I did under mine, and the Rugby's guide responsibilities, which I also did. The professor then took us outside, a grave look on his face, and told us that every year there was one problem group, and with every year he made an offer to split them into small groups or to keep the group as is. Girl Power were immediately against the idea, citing they would be sticking together if they were to split, and they weren't going to split unless they could take me with them. This is the only time I've been popular with women, clearly. The professor asked me, and I just said the evidence says everything that needed to be said. He rejected the evidence, claiming that anyone could put their name on something, which is technically true. We left the initial presentation with a failing grade with a 2.1 upper second final mark only being possible with absolutely flawless final result. With the group project having such large bearing on the final grade of the course, a poor grade there would spell trouble for the remainder of the course. The professor encouraged us to stick as a team to get the final product done as well as we can, as well as the necessary paperwork discussing our allocation of responsibilities, CAD, and software design, time management, materials, all the works. The revenge begins. TLDR, documented every little occurrence throughout the months of group project, compiled massive document full of screenshots and zip file of sound recordings and selfies, used university policy to terminate teammates' enrollment. After pleading again with professor, he allows us to go forwards with the implementation of the project regardless of the Rugby's guy lack of contribution. I informed the professor that I shall be thoroughly documenting all the meetings, all the correspondence via Facebook, text, and other messaging systems, and who's been submitting work. Then, an idea struck me. I had friends in computing science / software engineering, and they would often talk about stuff they were doing. That's when I found out that the university had their own Git system. For those who don't know what Git is a source versioning software, so people could push their own contributions to the development of a project, pushing commits. In short, you could bundle up files you've created / edited, add a comment to the bundle, usually to summarize what you have done and other notes, and push it through for someone to authorize. This allows collaboration on a project from many people. This is just a very basic summary of Git, but it will suffice. I inquire more and find out that although it's mainly used by the faculty that my friends were in, the entire university could create projects in this software using the university email. I bring this up with the professor, asking if it's okay to use this software during the development of the robot and its paperwork. He says, "That's the first time anyone suggested it to me. But if it helps you to keep on top of your things, go ahead. I'm interested in how this turns out." I contact the group on Facebook that I've devised a way to keep all of our work managed without having to constantly exchange files via Facebook or email, and that I requested they all contact me privately so I could show them the way. Girls Power both individually messaged me, and I introduced them to the wonderful world of Git. Rugby Guy read the message in the group chat but never got in touch with me. I insisted that every little thing we have done every time we've created or made change to any file related to the project, we commit and push what we have done to our Git repository. Whether it was the whole pages of text code or single sentence or line, it got committed. The team were also to have meetings. Every meeting was arranged via Facebook group and an email sent to each team member via university email with the time, location, and purpose of the meeting. After some convincing during each Facebook discussion to arrange meeting, each meeting ended up being held in a different room to previous meetings. At the beginning of each meeting, I insisted on taking a group picture on my phone, which I insisted on pulling silly face for. I also placed a dictaphone at the center of a table for each meeting, so we had an audio recording of each meeting. Meetings mainly consisted of how much progress I made on development side, how much progress Girl Power made on documentation side, and Rugby Guy not really present. He only turned up to 2 meetings, promising to do some work on the hardware sides of things. At the end of the day of each meeting, I would send everyone in the team an email with the meeting minutes, an attachment of a group picture, and an audio recording. After a few meetings, Girl Power pulled me on the side and asked me what all the pictures taking was about, and why I insisted on a change on a different room every time. I answered, I like the change of a local and memories are always nice. They have an unsure okay? A quizzical expression and just left it at that. Then came the actual creation of the robot. As Girl Power were in charge of the most of the documentation, the onus lay on me and Rugby Guy to do the development side, with me supposed to handle mostly the software side. Upon each arrival to the workshop, I would take a selfie of myself outside the workshop and also a selfie with random people in the workshop each time. I would ask for their university email to send the selfie to them as quirky memories. I also took pictures of the robot before and after each time I was in the workshop. Rugby Guy showed up once to cut out a base of a wood. So we fell worryingly behind. Girl Power did their best with their limited practical ability to help, but sadly the vast majority of electronics and getting labor work done fell to me. As a result, I ended up having to skip out numerous lectures and seminars to get the implementation work done. The situation was so dire that I knew that there was no way I was going to catch up on all the learning missed. I knew I was doomed, so I rejected all of the girls' help so they could at least study and help themselves, and I will ensure the project got sorted. By the final presentation of the competition, my team had somehow managed to win our University Little Robot tournament by a very slim margin. Rugby Guy, who actually turned up for the competition and presentation, breathed a sign of relief, got hugs from Girl Power, and the professor took us to the side to offer his congratulations, and he honestly didn't think we'd make it. We all smiled and laughed, including the Rugby Guy, who had no idea the massive storm that was about to hit him. After all was said and done, person in class was given a form to evaluate their teammates anonymously, rating the contribution of each named teammate from 0 to 4 for participation, quantity of contribution, quality of contribution, and general teamwork, with 0 being an absolutely nothing, nil, 0. At the bottom was a box of comments. I, of course, gave the girls solid 4s across the board, as they were an absolute godsend, and I loved them for it. They took me aside and revealed to me that they were both giving each other's and me 4s. And it turned out we all agreed to give Rugby Guy solid 0s for contributions and teamwork. They gave him a 0 for participation. I gave him 1 because he did technically turn up for 2 meetings. In the comments, I simply wrote, "See evidence." Handed in the form to the professor directly and left before he could get a word edgewise. Then I got hope, booted up my laptop, and opened up Word. I also opened up the webpage for our Git repository, our Facebook group messaging, and my university email. Remember, the group used source versioning software to keep on top of the project? Each commit had the name of the committee and their email address. Screenshot every commit and its message. Then, the Facebook messages with all the group discussion and also girl power messaging me privately to learn about the way. Screenshot every workshop selfie and selfie with random individuals. Insert into document. Robots picture for each session. Insert into document. Group selfies. Insert into documents. Sound recordings of meetings and meeting minutes. Compile all into a zip file, complete with a text copy and paste of each email regarding meetings and selfie emails. I then proceeded to sit on all of this until I got email I figured out what's coming. The professor sent an email to me asking me to meet him in his office to discuss the scores I had given to my colleagues. The day of the meeting, 2 hours before it, I went to the university library to print off my Word documents of pictures. While the document was printing, I went to the Git repository and created a link to join the project. I then opened my email, sent the professor the zip file I had compiled, writing, "Please find the attached audio recordings of each meeting, emails I have sent to the people I have taken selfies with, and a link allowing you into our Git repository." I treasury tag my document pages together, carefully place it in my backpack, and head to the professor's office. I knock, stating that I'm here for the meeting. I'm asked to come in, and I see girl power looking somewhat grim, and the professor with a look of throughout annoyance. I close the door, and he immediately starts with, "You sent me worrying scores for your colleagues. Do you understand that the scores you give to your colleagues will reflect the mark they get for this module?" We all nod. "So you will understand that the scores you give to the rugby guy will reward him next to no marks, so he will fail the module outright and cannot pass the year." We all nod. "Did you know that the rugby guy is repeating the year?" We all nod. "Do you know the university's policy regarding retaking the year?" I state that I'm not sure what policy he's referring to. He states that essentially, barring extraordinary circumstances like personal issues or major illness, you cannot repeat the same year a third time. In other words, if you fail the second time, you're out. Finished. He then pulls out my form in particular. It says in your comments, "See evidence," but you forgot to give any evidence. Before I ask why exactly you're giving him such poor scores, do you have any evidence with you, murderous solutions? At this point, I was smiling so hard, my cheeks were hurting, and the poor man trying to help his failing student had a look of consternation on his face. I slipped in my backpack off my shoulders, opened it wide, pulled it out hundreds of pages of all bound by tags. I said, "I've sent you an email with a zip file. In it is the sound recording of every meeting, as well as many emails regarding meetings, as well as selfies sent to other people. In it, you also find a link that will allow you into our Git repository so you can see for yourself. Before you do so, please take a look at this." I placed the document next to the textbook on his desk. The document is thicker than the textbook. I explained the nature of each set of pictures included in the document, with the professor dead silent throughout the entire explanation. This included like group selfies, so a penny suddenly dropped for the girls, and an audible "Oh" coming from one of them. Once I finished explaining, there was just silence in the room for 2 minutes, as everyone just stared at the pile of papers on this guy's desk. The professor then just told us that we could leave. A couple of days later, we got another mail from the professor. "Evidence accepted. Scores accepted. Initial mark for the final project, 80%. Mark will be adjusted due to unbalanced contribution. I just passed a number of my other modules, but failed one too badly to continue the next year. Girl power did great though, and we're super happy that our group grade was miraculously bumped into 2.1. I dropped mechanical engineering and transferred to computer science at the end of that year. Well, I have to give my compliments that this revenge is very well planned and executed from the very beginning. To screenshot and compile everything into zip files, sure, I can think of that. But to take the pictures every time they had meetings at different locations with random people nearby were extremely smart. Also, to even think about using the software Git, probably similar to GitHub, I guess I'm not too sure on computer science, to see the contribution and commits made by each member were amazing. This is why I really hated group projects, and I still don't know why they're still so relevant until this day. It is apparent fact that most of the time there is only a single person who handles everything, be it a group projects or a presentation. And they all receive equal marks for the entire group. It's very unfair. OP still got lucky that those two girls were godsend and were very hardworking and productive toward the project. Rugby guy, on the other hand, got what he deserved. If he knew that it is the university's policy that doesn't allow repeating student to study again for the third time, he should have paid more attention instead of being a lazy duck. Not only that group project sucked, the professor appeared to even protect the rugby guy. Maybe because he played for the university, so the university should protect him? I don't know. Why should he ever feel sympathy to a person that doesn't do anything ever? Guys like him are the ones who make high school and university experience a living hell. But with that much of an evidence, literally thick, more than a textbook, professor just sat there in silence. I personally dislike the professor, honestly. Although the revenge is sweet, OP still couldn't continue to study next year because he missed too much lectures. And now for the comment. We have the first comment by Jack the Lad 01. I feel the professor should have been supportive and had a close eye on rugby player when you first submitted. Your other modules suffered because of the amount of work needed to stay on top. In any case, good read. Well done. OP then replied that, you can say that, and I honestly feel the same way at first. I'll admit that I was 19 years old at the time, so there was evidently a lot of emotional charge in my thought process then. But nowadays, when I think about it, especially when typing my story some 5.5 years after, it's much easier to see it from his side. There are lots of causes for students to round on one individual. Bullying, scapegoat, the premise of getting a better grade, trying to save their own butt. I don't doubt he's seen some of the above instances before, thus it's essential that he has empirical evidence before he can make definite conclusion one way or another. So in a way, he was supportive of us trying to figure out our differences ourselves, and the rugby guy had no other option to be with us. So he was trying his best for rugby guy also. You're darned if you do, you're darned if you don't really. U/Seem Awesome asked, did you ever hear anything from rugby guy after the scores were accepted? The OP then said, he removed me as a friend from Facebook shortly after and fairly sure he blocked me. Username Zelda Spell Factory shared that, as a professor's kid, I assure you that your hard work and documentation was talked about over beer on Fridays. As a professor's kid, I assure you that your hard work and documentation was talked about over beers on Fridays. Your professor have been astonished and gobsmacked that you did so much documentation. OP then replied, the silence spoke louder than 1,000 words. U/Fire Tornado 88 enjoyed and said, that was a hell of a story. I was so relieved when you won the competition. Seems like all your hard work paid out. Are you still in contact with Girl Power? The OP then replied, I still have them on Facebook. The last I heard from one of the girls, both got first in all their other modules in that year. Besides, seeking me for programming advice in their final attained a first-class degree. The other one also asked how was I doing and asked for advice in obtaining a customized laptop. Alright, so that will be all for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. You can always leave your own story in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, or share basically any cool ideas you might have. Also, please check out other Dank Doggo videos. We have plenty more to watch. See you guys next time. Have a great day.